Hello.
Oddworld Abe's Oddysee remains one of the most beloved cinematic puzzle platformers of the PS1 era, remembered for its dark humor, grim world, and wonderfully unusual hero. Abe works at Rupture Farms, where he discovers that his employers plan to turn the Mudokons into their next product. What begins as an escape quickly becomes a mission to save his people. With no weapon to rely on, you study patrol routes, activate machinery at the right moment, and use the factory's many hazards against its guards. GameSpeak allows you to tell other Mudokons when to wait, follow, or move to safety, while a careless command can send them straight to their deaths. The difficulty can be brutal, but its distinctive gameplay and Abe's unforgettable personality helped the game sell around 3.5 million copies and become one of the PS1's lasting classics. Resident Evil changed the way horror worked on PlayStation by making survival just as important as combat. The moment you enter Spencer Mansion as Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine, the challenge is no longer just about fighting zombies. It is about managing a limited supply of ammunition, healing herbs, and precious inventory space. Fixed camera angles deliberately restrict what you can see, while the pre-rendered backgrounds give every room in the mansion its own sense of tension. Locked doors, puzzles, and repeated trips through familiar corridors make exploration even more unsettling. And the moment the zombie dogs crash through the windows remains one of the game's most memorable scenes. Across its different PlayStation versions, Resident Evil sold around 5.08 million copies and laid the foundation for a series that would shape the future of horror games. Crash Team Racing is one of the most beloved kart racers of the original PlayStation era, and it brings Crash Bandicoot from platforming into racing without losing the energy that makes the series so memorable. Winning is not just about finding the right power-up. You need to build turbo through power slides, take corners cleanly, and hold your speed for as long as possible. Tracks that seem simple at first gradually turn into real tests of timing and control. Adventure mode keeps the single-player side surprisingly rich with boss races, tokens that spell out Crash Team Racing, and relic challenges, while 4-player local multiplayer gives the game even more life with friends. With around 4.79 million copies sold, Crash Team Racing proved that Crash could thrive in an entirely different genre and became one of the most memorable racing games of the original PlayStation era. Spyro the Dragon arrives at a time when 3D platformers are still figuring out how open their worlds can really feel. Its wide, colorful levels immediately stand apart from the more enclosed designs of the era. Spyro's fire breath and charge attack form the foundation of combat, but the glide mechanic is what really gives the game its identity. Gliding from high places does more than make movement fun. It becomes the key to reaching hidden areas and distant platforms. Throughout the levels, you rescue dragons, collect gems, and discover new paths as you explore every corner of the map. Its impressive draw distance for the time and smooth movement keep exploration feeling fresh. With around 4.8 million copies sold, Spyro the Dragon turned the little purple dragon into one of PlayStation's most recognizable characters. Tekken 2 does more than build on the foundation of the first game. It also shows just how deep a fighting game can feel on PlayStation. New characters like Jun Kazama and Lei Wulong join the roster, while each fighter's different rhythm and moveset makes every matchup feel distinct. Modes like Team Battle, Survival, Time Attack, and Practice give the arcade-style game much more staying power at home. Unlockable characters and pre-rendered cinematic endings also give you a real reason to keep coming back. With around 5.7 million copies sold, Tekken 2 helped move the series beyond the shadow of the original and pushed it toward becoming one of PlayStation's biggest fighting franchises.
You win!
Tomb Raider changed the way 3D adventure games handled exploration when it arrived in 1996. As Lara Croft, you move through tombs stretching from Peru to Egypt, climbing high platforms, searching underwater passages, and figuring out how massive rooms connect to one another. Her dual pistols keep combat straightforward, but much of the tension comes from judging jumps correctly, because one mistake can send you a long way back. Large, quiet spaces, hidden rooms, and environmental puzzles keep exploration at the center of the experience. Tomb Raider sold millions of copies on PlayStation, turned Lara Croft into one of the most recognizable game characters of the time, and launched a series that would keep growing for years. Final Fantasy IX arrives near the end of the PlayStation era and takes the series back to its classic fantasy roots, while remaining memorable for its cast of characters. Zidane, Garnet, Steiner, and especially Vivi turn the story into more than a simple quest to save the world, giving it a more emotional focus on identity, life, and responsibility. Battles follow the active time battle system, while permanently learning abilities from weapons and armor keeps every new piece of equipment meaningful. Active time event scenes also let you see what other party members are doing when they are away from the group, making the world feel more alive. With around 5.5 million copies sold, Final Fantasy IX closed the series' PlayStation era with a powerful tribute to its classic roots. Resident Evil 2 takes the fear that was confined to a single mansion in the first game and spreads it across all of Raccoon City, immediately expanding the scale of the series. Leon and Claire enter the same disaster from different paths, and their scenarios complement each other, with some choices leading to different outcomes in the second story. Ammunition and inventory management still make every step feel important, but the larger number of enemies and heavier action noticeably raise the pace. The police station's narrow corridors, fixed camera angles, and the uncertainty behind every door keep the tension high throughout the game. With around 4.96 million copies sold, Resident Evil 2 built on the success of the original and turned the series into a much bigger name in horror. Crash Bandicoot arrives at a time when PlayStation is looking for a mascot of its own, and it quickly becomes one of the console's most recognizable faces. Naughty Dog keeps the jumping and timing of classic platformers, but moves the camera behind Crash, giving the game its own rhythm as you run through narrow 3D corridors, smash crates, and clear obstacles at the last second. Some levels send you sideways, while others have you running straight toward the camera as huge boulders chase you down. Aku Aku masks give you a little room for error, but the first game's harsh save system and high difficulty seriously test your patience. With around 6.8 million copies sold, Crash Bandicoot helped Sony find the character it was looking for and laid the foundation for a platforming series that became closely tied to the original PlayStation. Tomb Raider 2 kept the tomb exploration and platforming foundation of the first game while taking Lara Croft's adventure into a much larger world. The journey moves from the Great Wall of China to the canals of Venice, then on to Tibet and the sunken Maria Doria, constantly giving you new environments to explore. Lara can now climb certain surfaces, and vehicles like the motorboat and snowmobile give some sections a completely different pace. Human enemies appear more often than before, but solving large areas, finding hidden paths, and judging dangerous jumps still remain at the heart of the experience. With more than 5.2 million copies sold on PlayStation, Tomb Raider 2 built on the success of the original and firmly established Lara Croft as one of the biggest gaming icons of the 1990s. Metal Gear Solid shows that while many action games on PlayStation focus on direct combat, staying out of sight can often be the smarter choice. As Solid Snake infiltrates Shadow Moses, you study enemy patrol routes, avoid security cameras, and move forward by hiding at the right moment. Even simple tools like the cardboard box become serious tactical options, while codec conversations and long cinematic scenes keep the story at the center of the experience. Psycho Mantis can even notice certain save files on the memory card. The fight also forces you to switch the controller to the second port, creating one of the game's most unforgettable moments beyond the screen. With around 7 million copies sold, Metal Gear Solid brought stealth to a much wider audience and carved Solid Snake's name into gaming history. Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back took the tougher structure of the first game and refined the formula with smoother controls, a more forgiving save system, and far more varied levels. The Warp Room lets you enter the stages on each floor in the order you choose, while collecting crystals unlocks new areas. Moves like sliding, crouching, and the belly flop make Crash more flexible, while hidden paths and bonus stages constantly reward exploration. From snowy hills and sewers to levels where you ride on Polar's back and race through forests, the variety is noticeably greater than in the original. With around 7.6 million copies sold, Cortex Strikes Back proved that Crash's success was no accident and helped turn the series into one of PlayStation's biggest platforming franchises. Tomb Raider 3 made the exploration side of the series more complex and more punishing instead of making it easier. This time, Lara travels through very different locations, from India and London to Nevada, the South Pacific, and Antarctica. And after India, you can choose the order of some of the routes yourself. New moves like crawling, sprinting, and swinging across overhead bars open the way to more demanding platforming sections, while the kayak and quad bike completely change the pace of certain levels. Traps are harsher, paths are better hidden, and the puzzles require more patience than before. Tomb Raider 3 sold millions of copies on PlayStation and is still remembered as one of the toughest and most expansive adventures in the series. Crash Bandicoot Warped arrived in 1998 and kept the platforming foundation of the first two games while turning the series into a much more colorful and energetic time travel adventure. Crash and Coco travel across different eras, from the Middle Ages to prehistoric times, in search of crystals, while motorcycle races, aerial battles, and underwater sections are mixed in with the traditional platforming stages. New abilities expand Crash's movement, while the time trial system encourages you to replay levels for better times instead of simply finishing them once. This variety constantly changes the pace and makes Warped one of the most content-rich games in the trilogy. With around 7.1 million copies sold, Crash Bandicoot Warped pushed Crash's success on PlayStation even further. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone gave players the chance to do more than simply watch Hogwarts during the height of Harry Potter mania. It let them actually explore it for themselves. As Harry, you attend classes, learn new spells, search the castle corridors for hidden passages, and collect Bertie Bott's every flavor beans as you progress. Quidditch sections change the pace, while platforming sequences and symbol puzzles keep the adventure moving. The character models and some of the animations may look a little strange today, but back in 2001, being able to freely explore Hogwarts was a huge part of the appeal. With around 8 million copies sold, the game clearly showed just how strongly the Harry Potter name connected with PlayStation players.
Hand over the stone. You will yield to me, Potter.
Tekken 3 does more than simply expand the series. It reshapes the roster, speed, and overall rhythm of its fights. The story jumps forward by roughly 20 years, bringing new faces like Jin Kazama, Hwoarang, Eddie Gordo, and Ling Xiaoyu into the spotlight. Sidestepping is now available to every character, letting you avoid attacks by moving around opponents instead of only backing away. This gives battles a much more dynamic flow. The PlayStation version also adds Tekken Force and Tekken Ball, giving the game a different pace outside its standard fights. With around 8.3 million copies sold, Tekken 3 dramatically increased the series' worldwide popularity and introduced many of the characters that would later become closely associated with Tekken. Final Fantasy VIII arrived in 1999, and instead of safely following the path of Final Fantasy VII, it made major changes to both the style and the systems of the series. The relationship between Squall Leonhardt and Renoa Hartilli sits at the center of the story, while Balaam Garden and the Seed organization give the adventure a military framework. With the draw system, you collect magic from enemies, and Junction lets you link that magic to character stats to directly shape your strength. Guardian Forces unlock new abilities, while Triple Triad grows from a simple card game into something that can even affect character progression. With around 8.6 million copies sold, Final Fantasy VIII became one of the biggest successes of the series on the original PlayStation, despite its divisive systems. Gran Turismo 2 took the realistic driving foundation of the first game and turned it into a much larger automotive world in 1999. You choose from more than 500 cars, use the money you earn from races to buy new vehicles, and upgrade parts to build your garage step by step. License tests in simulation mode make progression more demanding, while arcade mode keeps things more accessible for players who just want a quick race. The addition of rally events also takes the series beyond asphalt and changes the pace. The fact that the game grew large enough to require 2 discs showed just how much it had expanded. With around 9.37 million copies sold, Gran Turismo 2 pushed the car collecting obsession started by the first game even further with its huge vehicle selection and deep career structure. Final Fantasy VII showed just how large and cinematic a role-playing game could feel when it arrived on PlayStation in 1997. Cloud's struggle with Avalanche begins in Midgar, but the conflict quickly grows beyond the fight against Shinra and moves deeper into the characters' pasts and the bonds between them. The Materia system lets you shape each character by tying magic and abilities to equipment, giving you plenty of freedom in how the party develops. Pre-rendered backgrounds, 3D characters, and cinematic scenes were especially impressive for the time. Characters like Aerith also left such a strong mark that the story is still remembered decades later. With around 10 million copies sold, Final Fantasy VII took the series' worldwide popularity to an entirely new level. Gran Turismo arrived in 1997 and pushed racing games beyond simply going fast, bringing them closer to actually learning how to drive a car. In simulation mode, you buy new or used cars, change parts, and gradually build your garage around the races you want to enter. The license tests can demand patience at first, but they teach you how to brake, take corners, and understand the balance of the car. That is where the driving system really starts to click. With 140 cars and 11 tracks, combined with real manufacturers, the game created a strong sense of car culture for its time. Arcade mode offered a faster way to jump straight into racing without dealing with all those details. With around 10.8 million copies sold, Gran Turismo became the best-selling game on the original PlayStation.